Alright guys, Kremp again, so I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The CDL is turning up some serious surprises right now, and the big question of the day, what on earth is going on with the Atlanta FaZe? An 0-3 start to the season, getting 3-0'd for the first time in about a couple of years. What has happened to FaZe since winning the Esports World Cup to turn up looking like this at the start of Black Ops 6? Slapped around today by the Ravens, a team that deserves massive credit, but FaZe are meant to be the #1 team in the game on paper. They've been the #1 seed in the CDL in the regular standings over the last 5 years in a row. That does not look especially likely right now. What needs to change, if anything, in that FaZe camp? Massively intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Starting just a couple of these like YouTube AI kind of chats, I guess, analysis things. The AI looks at the chat and decides what the viewers are talking about. This was one of them that was doing the rounds tonight, which I thought was pretty entertaining. There was some other drama as well with aBeZy in challenges. So you guys remember Hook's team, they won the first Challengers Cup. aBeZy's team won the second Challengers Cup, and it seems like his team has now been forfeited in the third one. So unfortunately for the players, FACEIT now runs the show. A lot of the FACEIT admins are not that experienced still with competitive Call of Duty, and there's been all sorts of drama since Game Battles has gone away. And it seems that aBeZy's team, they say the FACEIT chat wasn't working, we couldn't talk to the opponents, the admin wouldn't help, and therefore we got forfeited. And Sandy says, we literally got forfeited by them for a website error that we had no control over. Someone get us him up. And I even checked out Stanley's page to see if he'd followed up on this, and all I can see is this: I never lost so much full. FaceIt just scammed us out of the tournament. So, yeah, it looks like they're done. They didn't get to make a run, which, to be fair, is a pretty big deal, because if they'd done well this tournament, it's a pretty good time to make a showcase, especially when a team like FaZe is struggling. If aBeZy was to have, dominated this Challengers Cup and won the tournament with an MVP-style performance, you got to wonder if questions would be had. Maybe they could still be had. But let's talk about the games. Toronto play Falcons, and this was unfortunately an absolute vintage Falcons display, where they are competitive until they have to actually win, and then they just get scared of winning, and that's what we see happen again. They lose the Skyline, although it was reasonably competitive. This map, though, was pretty much unforgivable, right? So, look, Toronto are looking good at the moment. They are an exciting team. CleanX is looking sensational, as always. But when push comes to shove, round 11 on the protocol, Falcons are looking for, a map win, at least in the search and destroy, and then King of Body after a good map. I don't know where my brother is off to, but he's off up the zip line, and that ends his life very quickly. And then Falcons go down. This was a chance. They were competitive in the other maps as well, but in the end it wasn't good enough. And of course, Clay's been coaching them and says, look, we've got to close out these hard points and searches if we're going to have a chance. But to be fair, Falcons have been reasonably competitive. I mean, the point that Alleycat made on the desk was that Falcons looked better against Ravens than FaZe did. So, look, Clay says Control needs an overhaul as well. Of course, the thing is, for Control and Clayster, over the last few years of the CDL, Clay, as much as I love Clay as a player and as a person, he is, historically one of the worst Control players ever. And at least I think that's true based on the numbers. Don't quote me. It just feels like Clayster's teams over the last few years have had terrible records in Control, and now he's coaching a team. So, look, I'm sure that Clay can help them with their Control, but fundamentally, they've just got to get into a position to actually close out some of these games, because, these guys can shoot. Khalid can shoot. Exnid can shoot. There's some talent there, and as Octen says, they're a talented team, but they cannot, for the life of them, make the obvious play to close out these games. And Clay says, yeah, the whole region only started playing respawns a couple of years ago. We'll get these fundies sorted. But, Bean says, I was scrimming some of these boys in Black Ops 4. I don't know what you're talking about, Clay. Shooters, though, no doubt. That's just what I was told. So Bean says, look, they've been playing respawn longer than that. But the fundamentals are, they have room for improvement, obviously, but they are still pretty exciting to watch, Falcons. I think they will get there at some point. Whether that's still going to be good enough to be massively effective, I suppose those are different questions. Scrappy was in the replies to Exon as well. I thought this whole thing was kind of nice to see, and these were the overall numbers. So again, it's not like it was an uncompetitive series. I mean, King of Body had a pretty decent one, apart from that round 11 play with a 0.9, 0.9, 0.9, 1.0, but CleanX with a mega performance, a 1.4 KD, and that was enough for those boys to get over the line. Let's talk about OpTic. They played a series today, of course, with Hook in the roster. They played Gentlemates. It's tough for Gorilla's mates. I mean, okay, whatever. They are better than an 0-4 team, but they are currently 0-4 based on their performances so far this season. Last weekend, they just played bad. This weekend, they've played much better, but they've simply not been able to win. OpTic, a fascinating series for them. We've talked about the pred drama. We're probably going to talk about it again tomorrow because more things are still happening on that front, and rumours and speculations and new pieces of evidence and information. All this type of stuff is still happening. Hook comes in for, obviously, pred. I thought this is kind of a funny end to the map here where the cameras weren't working, so it looked like Hook and Dashy were still absolutely locked in after they won the map. The funny thing was, Hook had a stinker here. He started off like 6-1, and then he proceeded to go like 10-33. This guy was getting ran. Now, it is going to happen. Hook's playstyle is going to mean that on occasion, this guy does have a hard time. The benefit is Shotzzy might just be the best player in the game. Certainly one of the right up there. And although there will be some concern here that Hook had a terrible map, and that will happen again. It's not going to be Hook's only bad map of the season. It's just, you know, and I'm sure they've got more to work out as well, certainly in match days when they've not played with each other, this team, for very long. But, and to be fair, this is one bad map from Hook. The rest of the day, he played pretty well, and when it mattered in Game 5, he delivered. But I will say I'm pretty happy that Dashy is living up to my MVP shouts before the season began, because, especially since the Hook change, he's been on fire. I mean, look at the damage, 5,600, 41 kills on Vault Hardpoint. Almost single-handedly won them this game at times. They then got the dub on the Vault. Dashy goes 12-4, a mega map from him again when it mattered. But after going up 2-0 in the series, Gorilla's mate started to bring this one back. They won the control in the end in a round 5. OpTic get a loss on Vault for the first time that we have actually seen. And then the game 4 was very impressive as well. It goes to a game 5. Gentlemates playing some better stuff. Better teamwork, better cohesion. They've obviously been working hard. And this I thought was just mega for the COD scene. That we have Scump Live, Scump Watch Party, and then we have Gotaga. We play the Champions of the World. And, you know, obviously new Call of Duty match and all this stuff. 62,000 watching and 63,000 watching Scump. So, you know, these two were doing battle, basically, in this OpTic versus Gentlemates game. And hopefully it's going to be a good rivalry for years to come as well in the competitive Call of Duty community. But, you know, the reality is that probably, you know, Gentlemates need to get better as a team if this is going to be a serious rivalry. And to be fair, they weren't far off today. But when it mattered in the game 5, Hook was the man to deliver. And this was just a great moment, I thought, for Hook, because after a difficult series, lots of OpTic fans saying, this guy, not as good as pred, to clutch up here when it mattered, because the game 5, OpTic went up, then Gorillas brought it back, then it was 4-3, Hook had a 1 versus 2, kills Priestahh, gets the next skill onto Lynz as well, closes out the rounds, 1v2, OpTic get the W. Kenny says, look, it was sloppy, they're working on it, and similar discussions. I think it's also nice to see how much the OpTic boys seem to enjoy playing with Hook. You know, we heard the comments from Kenny yesterday where he was saying, well, Hook's so good at this, so good at that. My read was in some of those, let's say, you know, praise of Hook, there was some thinly veiled criticisms of pred in there somehow as well. And it just seems like, whatever you think about that, the team environment is better because, you know, we're getting Dashy saying, the nuke clutched up, icy clutch from him. So it just seems like it's a better team environment now at OpTic, and they've won both the games they needed to on the weekend. Tough for Gorillas though, very tough. I mean, for them to move to 0-4 now, they're better than that, and as the season goes on, they'll be fine, I think, if they play like this, but still, another game 5 loss, another couple of search and destroy losses. Kismet, honestly, not to my surprise, I thought Kiz would be looking pretty good at this game, and he has been so far. The problem is they've not had the production elsewhere, and even a good series in Priestahh, it's not enough. Dashy had a bit of a takeover. Hook's overall KD wasn't good, mainly just because of map 1. Outside of that, it was a pretty good performance across the board. But what is going on here at Atlanta FaZe? They won the World Cup just a couple of months ago. Cellium played like the best event ever in recent memory. He played at a faster pace. He looked so good. And because of that, FaZe decided not to blow up their team. They were considering it. Surely they were considering it after coming top 6 of the World Championship in Dallas back in July. They go to Riyadh, they win the whole thing, they decide to stick out the roster. Most coaches had them second best in the league, just behind Los Angeles Thieves. But they've come into the season so far. They lost to Toronto, they lost to Thieves. They were competitive with Thieves. I mean, they could have potentially won that series, but in the end, Thieves were just about good enough to get over the line that time. But also, Thieves were pushed close elsewhere as well. Thieves may be the best team. They've not executed, I would say, Los Angeles Thieves as best as they could have done in some of these games. FaZe, I don't really know if they do have a level to which they can execute, which is actually going to comfortably win them some of these series. We do not see FaZe get beaten comfortably in Hardpoint. We do not see FaZe get 100-point clubbed in Hardpoint. It's now happened twice in a matter of days. And this time by the London Royal Ravens. On, according to Brian Saint, FaZe's host, basically. It seems like the Ravens boys were playing FaZe today on an Atlanta server, where the FaZe boys are based in Atlanta. Now, it may have been a small ping differential, and that seemingly was the best server. And there's the ping tool to obviously, apparently, equalize everything. But it seems like Ravens today spawned in effectively on FaZe's host and just wiped him off the face of the planet. There is clearly something drastically wrong with FaZe's performance because they don't look bad. They look bad, but they don't look like they're doing anything atrocious. They just don't look very good at all. I mean, they can play well in very small stints and look like the FaZe that we expect. The individual talent is still there. Simp definitely had it on display today. And sure, Simp needs to be playing at a very top level if FaZe want to win things this year against the other top teams. But also, today it didn't even matter because the rest of his teammates just didn't deliver. I know that Drazah's been catching some flack, but I mean, Cellium, I think, deserves a lot of discussion on his play over the last few days when you're seeing stuff like this. They go to the search and destroy. aBeZy has a bad one. Of course, there's been criticism of FaZe because they, despite having Simp, who's a great sniper, they've wanted the sniper banned because it seems like aBeZy doesn't really like playing against it. And, of course, there's been some discussion there. Also, there's been the talk about the fact that, Crowder's been coaching the team now for a few years. When FaZe have had rough spells, he has had some criticism, and that's certainly happening once again today. And after going down 2-0, we then saw this tweet from Tupac. Now, Tupac, of course, used to be Chicago Huntsman's Search and Destroy guy. He then used to be Atlanta FaZe's Search and Destroy guy. And, of course, it's always difficult to say. Yes, Tupac, if you've ever listened to him or watched his streams, this guy is a phenomenal mind for Search and Destroy, and surely has had some positive effect on FaZe over the last couple of years. But it's always kind of difficult to quantify that because FaZe obviously told him, look, yes, thanks for the time, but we don't have the funds to support it. So, on some level, that always means we think we can do just as well without you, really, because if it was necessary for their search and destroy performance in their eyes, then, the budget, they'd have found a way to make it work, right? So I think the feeling is they felt probably they didn't necessarily need him any longer. They could win just as many or nearly as many search and destroys without him. That does not now seem so clear. Their search and destroy has been a serious problem. They go down 2-0 in the series to Ravens. Not only do they go down 2-0, they go up 2-0 in the control with that. Okay, maybe FaZe are back. They won a couple of nice rounds. But then Slasher made some takeover plays. TJ made some takeover plays. And all of a sudden, we're staring down the barrel of a 587-day record for FaZe not getting 3-0'd in a qualifier. And they got reverse swept within the control to win the series. I mean, this is unbelievable stuff. We've not seen anything like this. Ravens played some great stuff. They deserve an awful lot of credit. Their scrims, we've heard rumours their scrims haven't even been that good, but to be fair, they are a team that will do better in matches than scrims. I think it's a great story for Slasher as well. This is the team that dropped him a couple of years ago. You guys know that I've always rated Slasher, and I think that he gets too much criticism for the community over the last couple of years. In my eyes, he's not just this old, washed-up AR that people seem to think he is. Slasher, especially on this game, it seems, can still be a top-quality player. Great leader, seems to understand the mentality it takes to win. And, who says that they can't be a winning roster this season, Ravens? It still seems outrageous, but the way that these teams are currently being set up and some of the results that we are seeing, this league is as interesting as it's ever been. I think there was some concern this season, and maybe give it a few months, and we're going to see OpTic, FaZe, Thieves dominating everything. But I do not think it's going to be that clear as it stands. FaZe are struggling, Ravens are looking very good. I think this league, the way that some of these teams have been formed this season, is far more compelling than many of us thought was actually going to be possible. And this is what Brian Saint says. We played them on the Atlanta server, and we just 3-0'd them on it regardless. So that's my question for you guys in the comments. Obviously, we want to give Ravens their credit, and I'm sure we'll talk about it over the coming days. The big debate, though, really surely, is Atlanta FaZe. Drazah, 0.7. aBeZy, 0.7. Cellium, 0.9. Most damage. Simp had a decent one, but, you know, TJ's and Gwinn dropping 1.4s on their heads. I mean, we don't usually see anything like this. And even the CDL couldn't believe it, because after the series was over, waiting for Boston versus Surge, we'll talk about tomorrow morning, they had that FaZe had 3-0'd Ravens, whereas of course in actuality, it was precisely the other way around. So loads of storylines tomorrow and for the rest of the week. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because you're not going to want to miss any of it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.